Hello, and welcome to the Wade Borth podcast. I'm your host, Wade Borth, and in every episode, my goal is to get you to think differently about how money works and ultimately to empower you to take control of your money and your personal financing system. Today, I want to talk about a little book I've been reading. It's called The Truth and Grace Paradox, and I found it rather interesting that in my industry, working with agents, teaching them how to present the IBC concept, and in addition to that, working with clients, talking about their, what they're doing financially, that this book really comes into play. Again, the book is called The Truth and Grace Paradox by Randy Alcorn. And I find it rather interesting is that our industry, just people in general, can come across either one of two ways, but rarely do they have a good balance. And let me give you a couple examples of that. I had a client who was putting some money away for retirement, thought they were doing a great job, and they've been told by their traditional financial advisors, hey, just put some dollars in, a couple $100s into this mutual fund, you'll be fabulous, you'll be just fine. And at the end of the day, when we looked at it, that wasn't even close to the truth. They were full of grace with the client. The idea was that they could, put some money away and they could have this money for whatever purpose, whatever reason. But the truth is that they weren't going to have enough. They weren't even close to enough. And so part of what should have been shared with them is, a little truth like, hey, what you're putting away isn't enough. It's not going to get you where you want to be. And then having some grace to go along with it. So, and that can be said same with agents. Myself, I had a great example the other day. We were on a Boy Scout outing with my son's troop, and something happened where I laid down some hard truth, but I didn't follow it up with a lot of grace. So, and what I mean by that, in the book, Randy talks about truth without grace breeds a self-righteousness. But grace without truth breeds moral indifference and keeps people from seeing what they need to see. So let me just repeat that. Truth without grace breeds a self-righteousness. And then grace without truth breeds moral indifference that keeps people from seeing what they need to see. So what do I mean by that? So I had a conversation with the boys that what they did wasn't a very good job. And I was being a little bit self-righteous, where if I would have had a better balance of grace along with that, I would have helped them see why they needed to do a better job and give them a way to go about doing that. We had a conversation afterwards of why that came out, but initially I just did not do a very good job. And again, clients and agents, all alike, we're all flawed, right? We're all going kind of go down that pathway that somebody will tell them, hey, you're doing a terrible job putting money away. Well, that might be the truth, but that doesn't have a whole lot of grace back with it. And so that doesn't help them get to where they need to be. That doesn't help the agent get to where he or she needs to be. Same thing can be said about having all kinds of grace, but no truth behind it. If you tell people, hey, everything's great, nothing to worry about, yeah, that's fine, but then they don't see where they need to, they don't see what they need to see in order to get there. So, because there's no truth there. The truth is, hey, you need to be doing more. You need to be doing this, whatever this is. And the grace is, okay, well, how do we go about doing that? What's a step? What's a process? Helping them understand and see what they need to see in order to get there. So again, in a financial world where we sit and again, the business that we're in, truth and grace have to be a good combination. Working with clients all the time, talking with individuals, it is it's a fine balance. It's a very much a balancing beam that you have to walk, because in all reality, I can't do a good job for you if I don't tell you the truth of what the situation is. That's part of why you come to me. That's part of why people have a conversation with me, is I will tell them the truth of where they're at. The other part of it is that I'm also going to have some grace saying, hey, did you do the best you possibly could do? Maybe not, but that's in the past. So what difference does that make? Here's the process going forward. Here's what we can do going forward. Here's what you need to see, so you know what to do going forward. Again, Nelson Nash wrote in his book, if people understood what's going on, they'll know what to do. So part of grace is helping people understand what's going on, so they'll know what to do. Where it's easy just to beat people over the head with the truth. And it's easy to have a tremendous amount of grace and compassion for people and not hold them accountable and just kind of let them do what they want to do. But each one of those has their own flaws. So if we understand what truth and grace really mean and what it does, it's a good balance for it can be a good balance financially, if in a family setting, in a relationship setting. All those can be balanced with each other. And when they're balanced, that's when you get true and open honesty amongst ourselves, our family, our children, our business partners, whatever it might be. So anyhow, the idea is understanding truth, understanding grace, and understanding where those two fit together. And then practicing those on a regular basis. Because again, even though I'm aware of it, I've read about it, I've tried to apply this in my practice, it doesn't always come out that way. So it's again, it's not being perfect. It's in the practice of being perfect. That's where we go. So again, the idea between truth and grace in all things we do come into play in the financial side, and also the relationship side of everything that of everybody that we have contact with. So just give that some thought. Have grace with people, but also supply a bit of truth with it. And also, if you're very good at providing truth, understand that grace is also the counterbalance to that. Because beating people over the head, I had a good friend of mine used to talk about, I don't want to be the person to tell them that their baby's ugly. Well, neither do I. But you also have to be able to have that conversation that, well, maybe there's an issue here, and let's find a way to solve that issue. But by ignoring it, you're doing that person more harm. When I say calling your baby ugly, calling their project poor, calling their plan poor, or whatever it might be, is just a euphemism for it. But what I'm getting at is that by not applying both, you're doing a disservice to yourself and then really to your client and to your friend, the person that you're visiting with about it. Or again, which might be your children, might be somebody in your son's Boy Scout troop, whoever it is. Just understand that you can't beat people over the head with the truth and not provide a grace that comes along with it to help them get to the point where they want to be. And you also can't ignore the truth, because that doesn't help them either. And you see this in politics, you see this in society all the time, where everybody wants to have this feel-good position. Everybody wants to feel good about something. But the truth of the matter is, from a standpoint of our economy and so on and so forth, we got some serious issues we have to deal with. And if nobody's willing to deal with it with some truth behind it, then it's never going to get better. But if all you deal with is just facts and beat people over the head with the facts, it's never going to get better either, because you haven't offered any solutions. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. Well, I hope you find this interesting. I know it was short, but I find that it is a helpful thing to think about when you're having conversations with people, when you're debating somebody. I think we've lost that ability to have an open, opposite-sided conversation with people. I enjoy it. I enjoy having conversation with people that are open-minded, that are willing to learn. Hopefully I'm there as well. I know I can find myself closed sometimes, but I have to fight that every day. In Nelson Nash's book, he talks about having the arrival syndrome. I got to fight that every day too, because I don't want to think that I know everything, because if you know everything, you become unteachable. And if you're unteachable, what can anybody help you do? Because you are as good as you're ever going to get. And I don't believe that's the case. I believe we have this infinite knowledge that's built in all of us. And if we can set aside that arrival syndrome, if we can set aside that idea that I know everything, then we can learn something. And again, if I'm having a conversation with one of my friends or a colleague or somebody that completely disagrees with where I'm coming from, if I'm open to learning and they're open to learning, we can have a very fruitful conversation. But again, you just can't beat people over the head with just the truth, because Now I'm hearing, well, it's my truth, or this is my truth. Well, yeah, that really sounds nice. And the truth of the matter is there's only one truth. And the problem you have is if when everybody has their own truth, then there's no ultimate North Star. So we have to get back to saying, here's what the ultimate goal is. Here is how we're going to get about doing it. And if your measurements are different, if your compass, spins around and has no north on it, it's hard to give you directions. It's hard to take directions if you don't have a north. So anyhow, if you find this helpful, find this interesting, let us know. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Reach out to us on our website, Sagewell Strategy. Love to talk about this situation or this concept inside of your planning and what you're doing and what your business model looks like. If there's a way we can help grow the business model around these ideas of providing good, solid information, the truth, along with a solution of how to make it better, which is the grace. If you're enjoying this podcast or know anyone else that might be interested, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and please leave a review. This will help this podcast reach and help more people by ranking higher in searches and ultimately help more people get out of financial bondage. And don't be afraid to share this podcast with your friends and family, as we can be easily found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.